more breaking news coming in. G7 is all set to discuss joint release of emergency oil reserves. In fact, this is a report coming in from the Financial Times. The group of seven, that is the G7, where finance ministers will discuss on Monday a joint release of oil from emergency reserves coordinated by the International Energy Agency, as reported by the Financial Times. Three G7 countries, included the US, have so far expressed support for the idea. FT, also citing sources, added that the ministers and the IEA Executive Director, Faith Byron, will hold a call to discuss the impact of the war, where the report also comes in as oil prices have surged more than 25% on Monday. This is the highest level that has been seen since mid of 2022. Major producers who've cut supplies and fears of prolonged shipping disruptions that grip the market due to the expanding US-Israel war against Iran. The IEA and the G7 presidency have not yet responded to requests for a comment outside regular business hours, but this is the confirmation coming in, as cited by the report in FT, that does confirm that with the rising oil prices becoming a huge concern and how it is hitting global markets, G7 is all set to discuss and a joint release of emergency oil reserves that will happen. In fact, it is on Monday when the finance ministers will discuss a joint release of oil from emergency reserves coordinated by the International Energy Agency. The conflict in West Asia that has global impact on crude oil prices. Global oil prices have jumped above $110 a barrel. US-Israeli war with Iran has fueled fears of prolonged disruption to shipments through the Strait of Hormuz. Crude oil prices surged nearly 20% in one day. Brent crude, the international standard for oil, crossed the $110 level in trade. Prices are the highest since Ukraine war fears in June 2022. Now, according to reports, about 10 vessels in or near the Strait of Hormuz have come under attack since Iran blocked the strategic waterway in retaliation for US-Israeli strikes. US and Israel launched fresh waves of airstrikes across Iran over the weekend, hitting multiple targets including oil depots. Israel's strikes on fuel depots have gone far beyond what the US expected when Israel notified it in advance, sparking the first significant disagreement between the allies since the war began. Now, according to reports, US is miffed with Israel over strikes on oil depots, which could lead to global crude oil crisis. The situation is certainly concerning, as we also heard from External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar a short while ago in Parliament, saying that India is not just monitoring the situation very closely, but the priority is to ensure that there is no shortage of oil in India, to control the prices and also ensure the safety of every Indian. Remember the oil prices that have jumped up by 25% just on Monday, given the war situation, and now this is increasingly becoming a concern. We also saw how the G7 grouping is now looking to discuss this matter. Oil has soared past $100 a barrel. Stocks have plunged, and this remains a huge concern as crude oil prices have surged more than 20% due to the conflict that threatens global energy supplies. And what really is the impact? How is the situation escalating? There is a cut in crude production, further squeeze in crude oil supply that is expected soon. And remember, several nations that could take a hit because of that. Kuwait, UAE, Iraq, that are cutting oil production. Not to forget how some of these oil refineries in the Gulf states have been attacked, and that will lead to a refined output. Production has been slashed after oil tanks were filled to the brim. Remember, there is no more space now to store after the tanker movement that has been stalled. Saudi Arabia may start cutting production soon. This even as several of those ships that are stranded near the Strait of Hormuz that has been blocked by Iran, and more than 20% hike that has been witnessed in the last 24 hours itself. That is a huge concern. the global crude shock that every nation is now trying to contain, now trying to ensure that the damage or the hike in prices is minimal. Oil prices that are soaring past $100 for the first time in 4 years. Brent crude that is trading above $110 a barrel. Oil prices that could breach $150 a barrel mark is what is being predicted as of now if the situation continues like this. 20% of world's oil supply that is shipped via the Strait of Hormuz. Oil production that has halted in some of these Gulf countries, not to forget that some have also had their oil refineries attacked. Israel has widened the scope of its strikes inside Iran, targeting key oil infrastructure in multiple locations. Massive explosions that were reported at the Shahran oil depot and the Akhdeshe fuel facility in the Iranian capital in Tehran, another major oil depot in neighboring Karaj. Videos from the sites show towering flames and thick plumes of black smoke rising high into the sky. Israel said that it had struck Iranian missile sites, command centers and fuel depots. Iran's oil distribution company said that 4 of its employees were killed in these strikes. The attacks mark one of the most direct hits on Iran's energy infrastructure since the conflict escalates, raising fears of further retaliation as the West Asia war intensifies.